Hello, sweet souls. It's DTO in the flow. And today I get to interview Meg Pappenheim. And wow, oh my gosh, I have so many divine experiences for when I was in Bali. And Meg and I today get to talk about her journey with yoga and so many things that she's up to. So, Megan Pappenheim is the co founder of the Yoga Barn, director of the Bali Spirit Fest group, and she's the executive producer of the Bali Spirit Festival. And I've been there. Oh my gosh, it's so wonderful and glorious. And Meg is originally from New York City, where she is currently at when we bring on camera later. And she took her first Hatha yoga class at the New York Open Center on Spring Street at the age of 13. She recalls sitting in warm wooden room, surrounded by women and men in one-piece leotards, many with gray hair. It was in that room that Meg began her yoga and health-centric journey, becoming an avid information seeker of various spiritual traditions. A few years later, between high school and college, Meg spent a summer as an ashramer at the Himalayan Institute of Yoga Science and Philosophy, where she continued her study of yoga, adding Ayurveda and healthy veganism to the mix. Meg loved living at the ashram and loved her fellow students, but walked away with a strong distaste for the guru syndrome that afflicted the institute. Her learning affects the way that she approaches the Yoga Barn as a similar type of institution today. So she will speak more about what her vision is and what she's been creating with the Yoga Barn. So once in college, Meg found herself on a year-long traveling experience, studying through Italy, Greece, and finally, Bali. On that trip, Meg focused on the language, arts, and culture of Bali, completing her BA in art history, anthropology, and Asian studies with a focus on indigenous folk art of Bali. That same fateful year, Meg met the man, there's always a story, here comes the love, get ready, who later became her husband. Oh my gosh, can't wait to hear that story. And together, Meg and Deck have inspired a vibrant group of companies that support various outreach and development programs in Bali. So what we're going to do is we're going to share with you right now an amazing video that is on the website for you to get a really clear understanding. You can get the feel and the flavor of what it is that Meg's creating in the world.
The earth and the ground of Ubud and Bali is being nurtured by this constant spirituality, mysticism, mystery.
Yoga has been in Bali for centuries. The yoga of devotions. It's a very important part of Balinese way of life. And Yoga Barn brought a different aspects of yoga, which is the physical aspects of yoga to Bali and introduced this to the world.
You will see Balinese people doing their offerings. It's part of their culture. It's part of their yoga. This is what they always do every day with open heart.
The marigolds on the floor, the little ling lang flowers, it's just pure essence that the place oozes.
It's this internal feeling that you feel like you're at home, you can rest here.
There's still an intimacy to the Yoga Barn that you don't meet anywhere else. You walk through the gate, you come down that little passageway, there's a Kundalini class going on, they're chanting their mantras, there's drumming happening in another corner. There's the healing huts, there's amazing food. It's just like home. It's the epicenter of health, wellness, healing.
So you come here, you can find almost everything that you need, at least to start your healing process.
Truly, I am committed to people being the best versions of themselves. So daily it happens in Yoga Barn. It can happen on the mat. It can happen off the mat. We have a lot of people that are repeat visitors. And you see their transformations as they go away and come back.
In one conversation with stranger can heal you, and you can always find it in Ubud.
There's a Balinese word, taksu, and for me, it's the charisma, it's the charm, it's the magic of Bali that makes it what it is. It's the essence.
Thank you for the smile. Thank you for the nature. Thank you for the spirit. Thank you for the open heart.
You know, Bali is known as the land of the gods and the goddesses. A huge part of what makes Yoga Barn what it is Bali, Indonesia.
For us to be comfortable here and feel Yoga Barn as home, like you're going back to your mom. From the top people here, like the management, the staff, the housekeeping, the teachers, they're all like very friendly and welcoming.
The big turning point for me was literally coming to Ubud, and I felt the magic, and I felt for the first time that I'd met my people, my tribe.
It's really life-changing. It's a change, spiritual, physically, mental. I grow at Yoga Barn. Every single part of Yoga Barn, I love deeply from my heart.
Sweet.
Amazing. So lovely. Let's everyone take a deep breath in for that. Magical.
Yeah, I feel like it's really well represented in that video, actually. It hit all the points with my beautiful Indonesian teachers and my Western teachers. It's great.
Oh, so lovely. And it's such a pleasure to have you here, Meg.
Yay.
Thank you for being a yes to coming on the show. And wow, I want to jump right into our 5Q interview.
Okay.
So a lot of people would love to hear from you. What's your backstory? So number one is, what is your journey with yoga?
So very quickly, I went to the United Nations International School when I was in high school, and my best friend was Indian, and she was the first person to introduce me to yoga and meditation. I remember being in her apartment, like down on 14th Street, with Indian spices cooking in the background, and her trying to teach me to meditate. Didn't really work. I've never been good at that. But that was my intro. And then because I went to school downtown, there were studios all over the place. I started experimenting really young with yoga, and I just fell in love with it. And like I said in my bio, I was always the youngest person around. And I was always nurtured by the older generation in that room or in the several rooms that I went to. I found that the yogis were the nicest people I knew, the most intuitive. And I just loved being in that environment. So that was the beginning. And then as I got older, I studied dance. Not very good at that either, but I love it. And then I came to Bali and decided eventually to do a teacher training for myself, not to teach. But the goal was to just get into my body. That's what I really wanted, because I know that I need the grounding of yoga in order for me to succeed in anything in my life. I need to slow down for a bit. It clears my head. So that's how I started with yoga. And I've always been an entrepreneur. And so I kind of put everything together.
Oh, amazing. Well, that beautifully leads us into question number two. So what inspired you to open the Yoga Barn?
Yeah. So when I first came to Bali, I was there in the export industry for a really, really long time. And I did fair trade and not-for-profit work. That's also my background, right? And the arts. So I was very involved in that. And I had yoga in the back of my head, and I had dance and movement that I wanted to experience, but there was no place in Ubud where I lived that I could do that. There was one person teaching Iyengar yoga. Her name was Ann Barros, and she was really the starter. And Danny Paradise would come to Bali quite often. But that was it. They were like in restaurants. So being that I studied dance, I was really into African and salsa and all of that. And because I was so multicultural in my background in general, and that's what brought me to Bali, the culture, I really wanted to create a space for movement and community where all of us who needed to get our dance on, our boogie on, or our yoga on, we would have a space. And there was a financial crisis, and someone was selling a beautiful piece of land in the middle of Ubud. And I had no money. I was just a little person, and I emailed everyone I know, and I raised all the money I needed to buy that land
Wow.
Yeah, and then the last person to put in money to help make it happen. Actually, so we bought the land and then we're ready to start a business. And the person who came on board to help manifest the business was Charlie Patton, who is a wonderful guy who's my partner, along with my husband, Kadek. So the three of us created this amazing environment for people, and it started really small. And we just metamorphosized over the years. Like, I've always put every cent back into the business. And we went from being 2 studios to 7 studios to Ayurvedic Center to Watsu to healing to the cafe to everything. We're a whole center. We're an organism, or we're a body, and they're with like different things in it. And it's been really beautiful to see what's happened. We've affected, I think, many people's lives. And there's about 20 teachers that are contractors, and they come and go and they teach at the Yoga Barn. Started off with Western teachers for the most part. And then so many teacher trainings happened where Indonesian and Balinese people went through the trainings, and now they're teaching, which is amazing. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I'm just trying to think from that scenario, being that I kind of was the first one to do this thing, like solidifying yoga in one place per se. Now Ubud has turned into a mecca of yoga and healing and spiritual. It's kind of like the next vortex out of what's the other vortex? What's the other one in the middle of Arizona? What's that called?
Well, there's Sedona.
Sedona.
Yeah.
It's got a bunch of people who are eating too much vegan food and drinking too much cacao, but for the most part, having a really beautiful time finding themselves.
Yeah, that's really great. And even because I live in California, in Encinitas, they say that's a vortex because that's where Yogananda brought the practice to the West. Back in the early 1900s. So it's a lot of beautiful ways that I'm grateful that they hear that, you know, you have a degree in cultural studies and you're moving into learning more about what culture is. And what I'm hearing from you is you're creating a culture within the culture almost, right? Like you're adding this global yoga movement to the culture of Bali. And then what I experienced when I got to perform at the Bali Spirit Fest last year was the vibrancy of so many international global souls that come to what you've created. And so what year did you first travel to Bali?
It was 1992. I was a junior in college.
Then, right?
Yeah.
Before Eat, Pray, Love came out.
Yes. Actually, Elizabeth Gilbert, I have a restaurant in Ubud, and Elizabeth Gilbert used to sit in our restaurant and write the book. Yeah.
That's incredible. Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's historical. Meanwhile, I went to Italy in 1992, then I went to Italy first. I got really fat. It was great. It was like I was juicy. I was this big, robust redhead. And then I went through Greece for a while and worked in Greece, actually. And then I landed in Bali, and to do this program in Bali, I was doing the School for International Training. It was an anthropological program. And I went and I lived in a village. And lucky for me at that particular moment, because I was really quite round, I got amoebic dysentery, took care of all that. Wow. And at the same time, I learned big flush, best detox ever, all natural. Didn't even know it was happening because I was in a village. There were no mirrors. But long story short, that's where I really got immersed in the culture. And the thing is, to answer your question, what inspired me to do the Yoga Barn? I mean, Bali is the culture of Bali and the people of Bali are incredibly spiritual in a way that doesn't translate in America. What I mean is, it's like innate. It's just who they are. Yeah. Right. There's negatives and positives to every culture. There's the dark side, the shadow side, and all of that. Yeah. In Bali, there's a shadow side, but despite the shadow side, they're, no matter what they're doing with their time, they're going to make the offerings and pray every day. And they're going to ask for forgiveness and ask for things to watch over them, the spirits, the ancestors. So yeah, it's a very, very, very special place.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. And speaking into the spirits and manifestation, my fourth question, my third question rather is going to be specifically about with what's happening with you as the Chief Manifestation Officer. So what do you feel is happening in the industry now with everything that has been going on with COVID, and how has that impacted the yoga industry in Bali specifically?
Yeah, so Bali is totally based on tourism. There's no other industry anymore. In 1998, we had a financial crisis, and anything that was left over of the handicrafts, it was one of the top 10 in the world for producing furniture, handicrafts, silver, clothing, like all of that. It's a very, very, very creative island. So that was the old Bali, and then it transitioned after 1998 in the crisis into a more service-based tourism culture or industry. So what's happened in March, I was in the United States, and the Bali Spirit Festival was going to launch on the 29th of March. I feel like that's what it was.
Yes,
And we had finished production. All the money was spent. Everyone bought their tickets. People were already flying in, and boom, the governor asked us to cancel. So we canceled Bali Spirit Festival 2 weeks before we were launching. And that's when all the airlines were shutting down, and I could barely get back to Bali. But what happened at that moment is Bali shut down, right?
Yes.
There was a bunch of expats and foreigners still in Bali for a while. And then by May, they had all left the country because there's so much fear. And so the entire industry of tourism in Bali has shut down, and the cruise ship industry is shut down internationally. And that the largest cruise ship staff comes out of Indonesia and Thailand, I believe. So there's currently I would say there's 20,000 cruise ship people, 40,000 hotel people, and another 100,000 basic people who are not working in like F&B per se or the hotel industry, but they're supported by all of that, like producers, wholesalers, whatever they are. They're all out of work and all out of business. Everything's collapsed.
Wow.
So there is a silver lining. The sky is blue. Balinese are going back to the land. They're growing rice fields and planting gardens. The kids are not in school, so you see lots of kids outside with their parents. Like the family thing is happening again.
Like back to basics. I'm witnessing that as well in California and other places. People are growing, even Himalaya and I have been growing a garden, taking bike rides, like finding more time, a little bit of pause. It's really interesting.
Yeah, so there's positive there. In the short term, it's very difficult, but in the long term, I think we're kind of rehabilitating the infrastructure a little bit, and people are reconnecting in a beautiful way. Speaking of gardens, my husband created something called the Yogi's Garden, which is this amazing organic farm center. If you find it, everyone, Yogi's Garden. But to just very quickly, the yoga industry in itself, I think, is going to go through a rebirth. I mean, we all know that too many people were going through yoga teacher trainings, but it was such a kind of a profitable thing for people to do. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I think people need to make money. What they're doing, this world is based on making money and spending money. So if a teacher training is going to make a teacher money, and that's how they sustain themselves through the year while they do daily classes that don't make them very much money, then all power to them. But we're sending out young teachers into this world, and there's so many of them that the whole industry was kind of flatlining anyway, but it was happening so quickly that we couldn't rejig. And so now there's going to be a rejig of some sort. And I think it can be really positive. I see yoga teachers coming together. I mean, at my studio in Bali, they have no work. There's no students. So everyone's got to dig deep within to figure out what tools they have to get them to the next level. It's not just about sitting on a mat and meditating. You kind of have to do a few other things. So people are figuring that out. And so we'll see how it goes. But like the Yoga Barn's gone online, the yogabarnonline.com, and
Yeah, here it is right now.
Yeah. And all of our teachers are coming on board, and that's really wonderful. They're also doing their own things, which is great. And essentially I created the online platform for them. more than anyone else, and for the students, because they've been touching students' lives all around the world. Like Bali is one of those destinations where people come and they come back and they come back and they come back. Well, no one can come back. So now our teachers can come to them. And, I'm not in it for the expansive money-making version of it. I'm in it to make sure the community continues while we are blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you're providing work and employment and opportunities for locals in Indonesia, which is really beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, we've been able to push people through trainings in Indonesia, and now they're teaching in their local communities, which is amazing.
That's amazing.
It's great. I wish we had more of that going on, and we will. I'm sure we will in this new kind of rejig.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like the apple tree of life has been shaken, and a lot of shifts, and different branches are growing, and old ways of being and old patterns have they're not even existing anymore. So it's a new paradigm, and I love how you've adapted. And really, as I can see on the website, you have a class online access that people could take and really get that beautiful wisdom and practice from the spirit of Bali into anyone's living room, and just really connect on that deeper level. And as it says here, practice, heal, move, eat, swim.
Yeah.
Yes to all those.
yes to all those. And I mean, we've created, I don't know if anyone's going to use them, but we've created these staycation packages because the visas have just opened up for Indonesia again. And even though the virus is there, it's not really any worse than it is in New York City or Los Angeles. If you isolate in a beautiful place and you stay careful, you're going to be okay. So we're hoping people will come back and spend time with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so everyone can see the website below and the Instagram. And my fourth question is, how are you integrating music into your projects in the future?
Yes, music.
La música.
So, la
You mentioned
música.
Salsa. Merengue.
Yeah, merengue, cha-cha-cha. So, well, I don't know if we can do it right through the screen. But so what I did actually so the Yoga Barn had to shut down. We were actually the first studio in Bali to shut down. I shut down the festival and the Yoga Barn all in like 5 minutes. It was a hard weekend. Yeah. I had a lot of tequila after that. But
yeah, I remember receiving your email about that because, I felt because as you said, like all this is a global experience that happened in March, and that's when I remember the last year when I got to perform there, it was like roughly 10,000 people come for a whole week. It's such a glorious celebration for people to come together, and to not have that ability that you and your husband extraordinarily well have done is hold a container for the culture of Bali to be alive and to be witnessed by so many international souls. So, a lot of tequila.
A lot of tequila. So, but what I did when we shut down is we took the opportunity to do some renovation that I figured it's so much better doing it now, because if we do it later, then we have to shut down the business again, and we're already shut. Yeah. So I built a stage in the middle of the Yoga Barn. It's gorgeous. I'm sorry I don't have a picture, but the intention is to actually do amazing performances in the Yoga Barn. It can probably hold about 600 people in front of the stage, outdoor under the stars. And so there's incredible local musicians, but also visiting musicians, and we'll do that on Saturdays. And I think there's room for that now. There's enough yoga in Ubud, so we can bring in something else. It's good.
Absolutely. And I see here you have a map of everything that you offer, and so many locations, a lot of possibilities. So the big restaurant area is where the amphitheater is, and that's where the stage is. I love that. Wonderful. So where can people find you online, and what are the offerings? You said that if people want to support and donate. So one thing that has happened in Bali is, even with the Yoga Barn, like with the rest of the world, we had unfortunately to furlough quite a lot of our staff, and most of Ubud is also furloughed. And when we did it, we thought it would only be 3 or 4 months. And it's not 3 or 4 months. It's going to be maybe 7, 8, 9 months. So we created a fund initially that went out to all of our Yoga Barn clients to raise money. Yes. And it's like $36 can feed, it could give basic staples to a family for 5
to 10 days, depending on how big the family is. It's not a lot of money. And so anyone who feels like giving, give to us, or just Google online on Facebook, you know, Bali outreach programs for this. And there's so many programs, but $50 goes a long way. Yeah. So,
yeah. And it sounds like, you know, that minimal amount of generosity that a lot of people could afford, as you said, can really create that massive impact in other people's lives.
Yeah. And I mean, right now, what we've done is where our business at Yoga Barn is down to 10% of what it was. And we're losing a lot of money every single month in operations. And I don't know how long we can sustain, but despite that, 25% of revenue that comes in through yoga classes, we're going to this program. So, you know, it's not very much, but it's something, because at the end of the day, the business is losing money anyway. So it's not about the money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really what I recognize in you is you're all about building community and culture and paying it forward for other people to really understand how you've been transformed and moved and inspired and, you know, all the glorious adventures that you've had through traveling. That when you can create that, it really matters a lot. And I know it matters to Tammy Firefly, because she just wrote a comment here. And she said, oh my gosh, I love you too. Yes.
Yay, Tammy.
Tammy has been quarantined in Costa Rica since the beginning of the year. Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. It's like Costa Rica, Bali. She's a global trotter. She goes everywhere. Yes. So that's great. And we have a lot of mutual friends. And so I feel like what you're offering with shifting and recognizing that there are individuals that yearn to go to Bali, and you said that the government may be opening up the doors soon, right? Because I know tourism, as you mentioned.
Yeah, so anyone who wants to get a 3 to 6 month visa and is committed to being there for a while can come in. Those visas are already released, and people can message me and I'll help them figure that out. But for short-term tourism, like 1 week, 2 weeks, not open yet.
Got it. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, it's always fun to see the comments coming in. Oh, here's Marta.
Hi, Marta.
¿Cómo estás? ¿Todo bien?
Awesome.
Wonderful. And as I mentioned, like all this international global community that you've developed, I'm sure you have friends from all continents.
Yeah, no, I do. And I love it. I love it. I just want to be traveling. That's what I want to do. I want to I have 2 kids. I want to put them in a bag and just go.
Absolutely. I love that. And I love that you're really emphasizing music. And that was one of the benefits that I witnessed of the Balinese music and the local multi-talented instrumentalists and vocalists and just music being such a sacred, divine pathway for people. And as you know, for me, I got to play my music when I was there and do a class with Himalaya. And wow, we had a fun class we offered called Bollywood in Bali. So we had Himalaya with Indian dance at the bongo, right? Ding, 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 ding. And we got to create that. And so what I've witnessed is when people are in your space and when they're physically there, there's this energy. And what you're creating, in a sense, doing your best to recreate, similar to how we're there's these pixelations right now, live streaming in the world, either live for someone or in the archives, that people could truly become a member and still support their own pathway. And the Yoga Barn is really allowing for people to have that experience despite of where you are or when you are. Bali Spirit is a melting pot. It's in Bali Spirit Festival. It's the most amazing experience. I love it. And I would say out of all festivals around the world, it probably is the most global, because Bali is global. There's no it's not like a New York City festival or a Los Angeles festival where 90% of the participants are from that city and the other 10% fly in. Yes.
This is 90% fly in. And it's amazing.
Yeah. So, and as well, you have your website, spirit.com.
Yeah.
People can go to.
Yeah. So in the days of Elizabeth Gilbert and Eat, Pray, Love, around that time, the reason why I think she might have found us initially was through this website, balispirit.com, which I launched after the Bali bombings. And this website looked totally different back then. It was like totally HTML piece of, database or whatever. But it was a holistic directory for Bali, linking businesses together. And it was the portal that got people together, that brought people back to Bali after the bombing. And it was incredibly significant at that time. We've pivoted it to be more of a yoga retreat kind of directory. And that's really what it's for now. But initially it was built to bring people together, and it really had that purpose, and it did a beautiful job back then. So yeah, now we have to do it another way because everyone's on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, do I really have to get on Instagram? Okay. No one needs directories anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a brand new world in that respect. And if anyone does want to follow you on Instagram, and I will repost this video on IGTV so anyone can watch this. And for everyone to know, we are live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. And thank you, Firefly, and other people that are commenting and sharing and saying hello. Here's someone, Captain Sparrow.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Captain.
That's it. By land, by sea, by air, and whatever galaxy you're in. Thank you for being here. And so do you have any closing words? I'll put your website up for everyone to see.
Thank you. Closing words. I would just say that with this situation that we're all going through, there's a million opportunities in front of each and every one of you. And to look at those opportunities, with every door that closes, there's one that opens. And it's a precious time, so make the best out of it. Yeah.
Well, let's close with a deep breath. All right. Deep breath in through the nose. Open mouth, exhale.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Oh, a host of opportunities.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Meg. Appreciate you.
All right. Yeah.
Everyone go to the Yoga Barn on Instagram, theyogabarn.com. And as Meg mentioned, if you want to connect further, you can fill out the contact us form, sign up for one of the programs. And it's such a pleasure to connect with you, Meg. And
same.
When are you going back to Bali? Anytime soon?
After I vote. I'm voting.
Got it.
Early voting, and then I'm flying.
Excellent. I just got my voting in the mail as well, so we're ready to go. All right. Thank you, Meg.
Much love.
Ciao.